All right, guys, so 5 habits keeping you poor. These 5 habits I'm seeing across the board. If you're struggling to make money, if you're struggling to keep money, you probably have one of these 5 bad habits. All right, so number one, the first habit is not utilizing your work experience. Now, this is twofold. If you work a 9 to 5 or if you have a business, let's start with the 9 to 5ers. I see a lot of you stay at a job for 3 to 5 years. You don't look for a promotion. You don't look for a raise. And if you do get a raise, it's just that typical 2 to 3%. And you don't increase your salary that much. And it's because you're comfortable. A lot of the response I get a lot is, oh, I'm comfortable in this position. I don't want to move up, or I don't want to switch a position or switch a company, or whatever the case may be. Essentially, you're just comfortable, right? You don't want to move. You don't want to try new things or take any risks. And for the business side, it's kind of the same thing. People have one business, one shop. They don't want to expand. They don't want to open up another franchise or another shop, or they don't want to add an additional service that may be a little bit painful, but you know your customers want this and you can add it to your list of services, but you don't want to do that because it's just going to take you out of your comfort zone. So, and the problem with all this is that everything else is going up in price. If we look at apartment prices in 2015 and we look at apartment prices now, clearly like a $800 to $1,000 difference. So when you make these decisions to stay stagnant and not move up and not utilize your work experience to shop the market, you're suffering financially because everything else is going up in price except your salary. So just think about that, right? You know, when you're staying stagnant, just know things are going up in price, and you need to really think about that and ask yourself, am I living paycheck to paycheck? Is paying my rent getting a lot tougher? And this is probably the reason why, right? So that's the first habit, not utilizing your work experience. Make sure you are doing that. All right, number two. The second bad habit is taking on responsibilities that you can't afford. Now, I see this a lot with a lot of the young guys. They end up getting a girl pregnant and they can't even afford to take care of themselves, right? They're living at their parents, or they're struggling to make rent. And all because you couldn't contain yourself, you end up having a kid. And now you're definitely living paycheck to paycheck. Because now you got to pay child support if you're not with the mom, or if you're with the mom, it's still going to be expensive. So make sure you're not taking on responsibilities that you can't afford. Even pets, right? I know we all like pets and things like that, but if you can't afford your food, how are you going to afford to pay for food for a pet, or pay for medical expenses for a pet, or things like that? So really think about the responsibilities that you take on. A lot of you don't think. You just say, oh, I could do this, I could do that. And you don't think about how much it's going to cost or how much it's going to affect you, and how much you need to pay for stuff, right? All right, so that's number two, right? The first one was utilizing your work experience. The second one is taking on responsibilities that you can't afford. I see those two a lot. All right, number three, the third bad habit is a lack of patience. Now, this is twofold too, right? There's a lack of patience where you can't wait to go on a vacation. You can't wait to buy those shoes that you want, or that piece of clothing that you want. You need to get it now, even though you can't afford it, right? So there's that lack of patience right there. I see that across the board. And a lot of the reason why that's a problem today is because of social media. Everybody's looking at social media and seeing people on this, in this country, that country. And 99% of those people are struggling, right? A lot of those people, you don't see the full story. You don't see the back end and what people are going through. You just see, the nice photos and things like that. But a lot of people are struggling out there just to keep up and just to look good on social media. So there's that lack of patience. But then there's the lack of patience to wait for things to actually work out. A lot of you would start a business, or maybe you start a new position and things like that. Maybe things are not working out right away, but you got to give things time to work out. You got to give that business time to prosper and things like that. And a lot of you, the first sign of things not working out, you just quit, and you just gave up on something that potentially could have made you a lot of money in the future. So yeah, lack of patience is a bad habit that a lot of you have, and you need to work on that. A lot of us struggle. I struggle sometimes with a lack of patience. I'm like, wow, why is this thing not working out? But you just need to keep pushing and have that positive mindset and say, okay, this is going to work out. Let me just keep on pushing and let me see it through, right? I usually like to give things at least 3 years before I quit, right? And it's typically because I believe that it's going to work. So this is why I even started in the first place. So let me give it some time to prosper. 3 years, and I need to see at least some progress and keep pushing forward, right? So that's number 3, a lack of patience. All right, number 4. The fourth bad habit that's keeping you broke is the broke mentality. And a lot of you can't help it because, and I grew up the same way. We grew up with people that didn't have much money, people that are always struggling, people that are always saying, oh, this costs so much, or, maybe your mom or your father, oh, that's a lot of money, and a lot of, cousins and uncles and aunts, oh, that you go to the store, that's a lot of money, this is expensive. So a lot of us grow up in an environment like that where we hear people say things are too expensive, and we don't grow up rich, right? If you grow up middle class, you're growing up in an environment where people are typically living close to paycheck, and they're struggling to make ends meet. So, a lot of it, I wouldn't say it's, the middle class's fault, because that's the environment you grow up in, but you got to change that mentality, because for a lot of you just need to see it, right? You just need to see the possibility, and then you'll be able to be like, okay, this is possible, I could get this done. So my recommendation for that is to surround yourself with people online that can give you that hope, right? Because a lot of the times you can't find that in your inner circle, your physical circle, because a lot of people around you are just broke, or they're in the same situation you're in. So it's hard to see, it's hard to break through that broke mentality if you're around people that are just broke, right? So yeah, fourth habit is the broke mentality. Put yourself around people, build an online presence, online community with people that are where you want to be financially. And that's what I did, right? I built a community, and that's where I got kind of broke out of my broke mentality. I'm like, okay, this is possible. I'm able to do this, and I'm able to see it, and it just helps, right? Obviously, you still got to do the work, but the mentality, it plays a big part in that. Like, you can't not have the mentality and think things are going to work out. So yeah, that's number 4, the broke mentality. Get rid of it. All right, number 5. The last reason why a lot of you are poor is because of pure laziness. A lot of you are just lazy. I'm just going to be honest. A lot of you are just lazy. You don't like to work. On the weekends, you're, again, if you work a 9 to 5, yeah, you're tired, but a lot of you just like to go do leisure activities instead of working on a side business, a side hustle, so you can make more money and get yourself out of that situation. But yeah, a lot of you don't like to work. A lot of you are in your mid-20s, so I know some people in their late 20s, still living with their parents and still making excuses. And you see it also too. A lot of people that go to college, they end up choosing a major that's less intensive, so they don't have to work as much. And then they get out and they wonder why they can't find a job or they can't make much money. So a lot of the reason why people are poor is because they're lazy, right? And you can't be broke and lazy, right? You got to pick one. So stop being lazy, get up, get a job. If you're a person that doesn't have a job, those are the people that I'm shocked. Like, you don't even have a job and you wonder why you don't have any money. Or you work in a minimum wage job and you wonder why you're struggling. So you need to get up, make some moves, and, don't stay stagnant. Get off the couch and apply for that job and move up in position and stop being lazy, right? All right, so those are the 5 habits that are keeping people poor. I think if you're not making enough money, if you're struggling to pay rent, if you're struggling to keep up, I think you could look back at these 5 habits and say, okay, I think I'm hitting this habit right here. Let me work on this, right? And again, let me go over the 5 again. Number 1 is utilizing your work experience to get a better job or expand your business. 2, taking on responsibility that you can't afford. 3, lack of patience. A lot of you have a lack of patience. 4, the broke mentality. You need to break the broke mentality as soon as possible. And then 5, pure laziness. A lot of you are lazy. All right, so that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.